Okay, starting our budgeting unit. So again, we already talked about this stuff, but in this unit, budgeting is going to be a little bit weird because it's kind of something you have to experience. We can talk about how to budget, and what we're going to talk about in this lesson is paying for utilities, which is part of budgeting, knowing how much to pay for water, electricity, gas, stuff like that. But it's kind of weird to talk about until you really have experience needing to make a budget for yourself. So like I said, in this lesson, we're focusing on how much utilities cost and how the cost of them is calculated. So as we look at this first one on 3.1a, in your notes packet, if you happen to have it, this is on page 35, looks like. Yeah. Okay. So Henry's water consumption has averaged about 1,230 ccf. Again, that's cubic feet. It's just a measure of volume of water per month. If the company charges 0.075, that's not a typo. That is basically 7.5 cents, right? 0.075 per ccf of water. How much will Henry spend on water for the entire year? So with questions like this, again, we got to be careful. I need to emphasize this a little bit more, but reading this, we have blah, 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 month, blah, 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 year. So remember, this happens very often. We need to keep an eye out for any time we have time periods. You want to circle them and make sure if we need to do something. So let's think about this now, but we'll come back to it later. If I am told how much he uses in a month, but I want to find out how much it costs for the year, I'm going month to a year, what should we do? You should multiply by 12. So I make a note right here so I don't forget it, that I'm going to make sure to multiply by 12 in the end. So all we're trying to find is how much he needs to spend on water. He uses this much each month, and each CCF costs this much. What should I do then to find the cost of all of this CCF? Well, we should multiply, right? Pretty straightforward. He uses this much water, and it costs 0.075. Careful, once again, that's not a typo. 1230 times 0.075, let's see what we got. So this is 92.25. That's going to be his water bill each month on average. Yeah, based on how much water he's using. But again, we have to be careful. This question says, how much will he spend for the entire year then? So we already made our notes to ourselves. Go ahead and take this month and see how much that would cost in a year then. Well, we should multiply by 12. You would spend that much each month times 12. You get 1107. So this is how much he wants to budget then for the year about. Did I get that right? Yes. So that's straightforward to start with. You see how much you used, you have a unit price, you just multiply. But again, keep an eye out for these time period changes. They pop up every now and then, not all the time. We just gotta be careful with them. So that's basically what we're gonna be doing. However, what we're gonna talk about in this question is something called the previous reading and the present reading. Let me double check here real quick. So we talked about the meter reading, right? You have a water meter in your house. For us, it's in the front yard. There's like a little thing that, a little cover plate. We can take it off and we can see the meter. It's a little dial. Now it does not reset, right? It reads how much water goes into your house, but it doesn't reset every month, even though you pay your bill every month. So we see what the previous reading was. That's what it showed at the end of last month. And then it kept reading as water kept going into the house. And now it's showing this much. So this first question says, how much water did Tom's household use during this billing period? Well, again, the meter does not reset. It just keeps reading. So how much they used is actually the difference between these two numbers. What should we do to find a difference between these two numbers? That is to subtract. It is going to be the present reading minus the previous. Because again, the meter doesn't reset. It just keeps reading how much is going into the house. So the difference between them is how much you actually used, since the meter does not reset every month. So they only use 13 CCF during that month. So you'll see that on your water bill. It will say previous, present, and then actually used. Yeah. How much you actually used is the difference between those two. Now, this water company is more expensive. This is 0.75, not 0.0 now. If the water company charges 75 cents per CCF of water and they used 13 CCF, how much will just this one water bill be? What should we do? Well, again, per means to multiply. Per is a multiply word with CCF. And hey, we have 13 CCF. So 0.75 times 13. This is going to be the water bill. $9.75. Honestly, when I lived in a one-bedroom apartment with just me and my husband, and we didn't have like a front yard to water or anything like that, our water bills were like $15, $20, pretty cheap. That's pretty realistic if you're just living with one or two people and you don't have a yard to water. Yeah, not too bad. So again, if you see previous and present, you need to subtract them because the meter does not reset. So what you actually used is the difference between them. So go ahead and read this one. Try it again. You're going to see previous and present. And then we need to find the total cost. Go ahead and try it. Okay, so this is what it showed for the previous reading at the end of last month. And this is what it's showing now. Once again, neither of them is what she actually used. It's the difference between them because the meter does not reset. So I'm going to subtract these two. We have present. I hope I wrote this correctly last time. Yes. Present minus previous. Okay, good. Not previous minus present. Present minus previous is 8,443 minus 7,540. So this is how much they actually used. And again, you actually do see this on your water bill. It shows you these readings. If you went out to your meter, you would see it. There'd be a little number right there, and that's the number it would show on the little dial in your yard, wherever your water meter is at. So they actually use 903 CCF at 25 cents per. So 903 times 0.25. So this is going to be a much more expensive water bill, 225.75. I will say that's very expensive for a water bill. We've been watering our backyard to get some grass to grow so that our dogs don't track in just straight mud. If there's grass, at least, hopefully they won't track in just straight mud like they used to. And our water bills are about $100 with watering our backyard. They might have a very large backyard or a huge family that showers all the time and uses a bunch of water. Water bills usually are cheaper than electricity, more often than not. And in this question, we're going to talk a little bit about electricity, actually. Let me double check something real quick. No, okay. And then we're going to talk even more about electricity in the next lesson. So the thing with utility bills that makes them hard to budget for is they are based on how much of that utility you used in a month. In the summer, for example, electricity bills in Phoenix are super expensive. In the winter, they're not very expensive because you might not even, I don't even have my heater turned on right now because it's not that cold. I don't need the heater, yeah. So it varies, and that's what this question is talking about. Depending on the climate, utility usage can vary according to the season. Again, for us, our electricity bills are like $300 in the summer, and then right now, our electricity bill is like $60. That makes it very difficult to budget. So for this reason, some utility companies offer what is called balanced billing. This evens out the monthly cost of utilities to make the homeowner's payments predictable. So we talked about this, I believe, in the key terms. Let me double check. Nope, we did not. Okay, then I will talk about it here. So what this means is they base off how much electricity you used last year, And they just split that cost amongst all 12 months. So you have to be with a company for at least 1 year in order to do this. So see how it says last year, they spent that much for electricity. Now again, that's how much they spent total. In the summers, it was probably higher bills for the AC unit. In the winter, it was probably lower bills because it's not that cold. Or depending on where they live, it might be switched. But in total, it was that much. It says they are opting to use balance billing for next year. What will their monthly payment be? So again, what the electricity company does is they see how much you spent last year total, and they just split it into 12 even payments for the next year. So if this is, again, how much they spent in a year, how would we figure out how much this would be each month then? We should know how to do this. We should divide by 12. So they take, again, how much electricity you used last year, divide it by 12. And then they just charge you this each month, $278. So that it's much easier to budget. Budgeting is easier when your bills are predictable. If you have bills that change every single month, that's really hard to budget because you don't know what to expect. So they will pay exactly $278 every single month. But here's what happens. I want you to write this down because this is for your homework question. For the homework, you'll want to think about this. If you used more electricity than you paid for, electricity, by the end of the year, than you paid for, please write this down because you'll need this for the homework, you will have to pay the difference. So if you need to pause the video to copy that down real quick, you can. So again, what this means is with this balanced billing, the electricity company says, okay, you spent this much last year on electricity. We will charge you exactly that much for this year, and we'll make them even payments. Every single month you pay the same thing for electricity so that it is predictable. You know exactly how much to budget. But here's the problem. You still have to pay for however much electricity you used. So if it comes the end of the year and you haven't paid enough, meaning you used more than this, you actually have to pay them a check for the difference right away. So that's the only downside to balance billing is basically they are estimating based off of your previous year what to charge you each month. Again, it's the same, that's cool. But if you actually use more electricity, you owe them a check for the difference come the end of the year, and hopefully it's not a very big check. So that's something to keep in mind. So balance billing, all you have to do is divide by 12. That's it. However, again, in your homework, there is a question related to this concept. If you're a little bit confused by it, let me know. But hopefully you can understand what it's saying here. So this is our last question type. We had a few different question types in this lesson. Talking about the price increases, because utilities are subject to inflation, just like anything. So over time, water becomes more expensive and electricity becomes more expensive because of taxes, because of inflation, stuff like that. So reading this question, it says, last year, your family used 3,000 cubic feet of water at a price of 12 cents per cubic foot. If the price of water increased 6.2% this year, what will be next year's water expenses? Now, I don't think you have a formula for this, actually. I was thinking you did. Nope, you do not. Sweet. Close that out. So the price of water increased 6.2%. We want to know what next year's expenses are. So to start with, it says the price increased 6.2%. So I want to know what that 6.2% is of. Well, it doesn't say it, but if the price increased by 6.2%, that means it increased by 6.2% of what it used to be. Well, it used to be 12 cents per cubic foot, and we used that much water total. So I want you to find the old total cost. It was 3,000 cubic feet at 12 cents per cubic foot. How should we do that? Well, just multiply. 3,000 times 0.12. This will give us the old cost before the increase happened. So 360. So this number is increasing by 6.2%. So guys, here's what this means. You will see this a lot in statistics. Oh, something went up by 50%, or this thing went up by 200%. Well, you have to know what that means. It means of what it used to be. So we need to find what 6.2% of this is, and then that's how much it gets increased by. So to start with, find 6.2% of this, please. 6.2% of 360, go ahead and find that. Okay, well, we have 360 times 0.062. We should know that. 6.2 divided by 100, careful guys, is 0.062. Okay, so 22.32. So this is how much the price went up by. So to find the new price, we just need to increase it, right? This is how much this price goes up by. So we should add these together. So this is how you're going to do any problems that talk about a percentage increase. You're going to find the percent increase and then add it to the old cost. So this is the new cost. Notice it says year and year. I skipped over this. I'm really bad about that. So we don't need to do anything with like multiplying by 12. Year, we're good. We found what the old cost was. This is now the new cost after adding on the increase. So I want you guys to try some more time. The same thing is going to happen. You're going to find the old cost, find the increase, and then add the increase to the old cost. Go ahead and try it again on this one. Ooh, keep an eye out for one more thing here. Look at the time periods. They don't match. We're going to have to do something. Okay. So again, guys, I need to be better at pointing this out because I catch on to it because I'm the teacher, but I forget to point it out ahead of time. It goes blah, 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 blah month. And then it goes blah, 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 blah year. Notice in the last question, it said year and then year. Good. Don't got to worry about anything because the time periods match. Here, though, the time periods do not match. So we are given a month. We need to go to a year. What should you have done? Multiplied by 12. So if you did not multiply by 12 anywhere in your problem, you're going to need to do that. You might have done everything else right, and all you got to do is go times 12. So I'm going to do that right now so I don't forget. You can do it at the end, though. You didn't need to do it right here. You could have actually multiplied by 12 at the end. So this is how much CCF was used for the entire year. And the price is 9 cents per CCF. Again, that's another multiply word. So you should have multiplied by 0.09. Now, again, like I said, if you did not multiply by 12 right here, that's okay. You can still get it right as long as you take your final answer and multiply it by 12. So this was the old cost for a year. It increases by 3%. So what you should have done is you should have taken your old cost, figured out what 3% of it is. So in this case, 43.42 is 3%. Then this is how much the old cost goes up by. Again, that's what it means by increase by 3%. This number increases by 3% of what it was. So we're going to add that back on to the old cost. 1447.2 plus 43.42. Here is going to be our final answer. 1490.62. So once again, if you did not get that, it might be because you didn't multiply by 12. Try and take your answer, multiply it by 12, and see if you get close to that. You might be off by a couple pennies because of rounding. But again, we want to keep an eye out for that. That happens often, and I need to be more careful about pointing it out to you in the beginning. Always circle the time periods so you can make sure they match. If they match, you don't do anything special. If they don't match month to a year, you have to do that conversion that we are used to, hopefully by now.